All right, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Conquest content. I could call it Conquest Core, but that's most of what I cover, and we'll see what other things we cover this year as well. But for this episode, we want to go through the new information for Spires. They just dropped the Spires update in Conquest, and we want to go through all of that. Now, I'm going to do this in a few different parts. This is probably going to be the long form video where I'm going through effectively everything. And I am going to do this in a bit, not always, but in a bit of comparison. We are going to talk about kind of where they were before, where they're at now. I'm going to try to avoid just going through as you know, oh, they changed this, that. Try to talk about more overall and then talk a lot more about what the new is, because the old really doesn't matter now. Because you're not playing it, and if you're new to the game or looking into this, none of that matters to you. But I do want to talk about some comparisons, especially to highlight the ways. Okay, there's no way they couldn't help them. Spires needed help for sure. Last night, after my migraine went away from when I was at my father's, actually, I'm used to the overhead lighting. He doesn't quite have that, so I think with like painting and stuff like that, because I did tons of painting, I think it was just causing more oral migraines. So once that kind of went away and I could look at a screen again and read again, I did thumb through this for a while. And honestly, I really like what they did. I think they added, uh, in no way did they subtract flavor. I think they definitely added flavor. As they said, they tried to keep a bit of all the different renditions together. And I think that's accurate. I think, un, to some extent, unlike some other armies when they redid them, this still feels Spires, 100%. It still does. The things that Spires did, or the sorts of things you contended with, I think are all still pretty there. When you think about an army that had ways to hurt itself, but also heal itself or help itself, and it sort of had that knife's edge back and forth, and unfortunately a little bit too much on the dull side previously. But they still have all of that. And I haven't tried them out yet. I won't be able, hopefully I'll be able to try them out. Maybe another week or so is my plan. We'll see for sure. There is a Spires Army at one of the local stores I go to, so I'm going to hopefully maybe just give it a shot with some stuff and see how they feel. Take them for a test drive. But we're going to go through this. The pattern for going through this, we are going to go through pretty much the way they do the book. Is that we'll do some comparisons. I'm not going to compare the equipment so much. I think that's just a little bit boring to kind of go through it that way. But we'll talk about just overall changes for that. But without much further ado, I guess one bit of further ado, and I think they removed the extra discount they were doing. But if you want to pick up Spires or anything else, we do have a discount code in the show notes below. It's been a while since I recorded. It saves you 10%, helps out the show as well, and you will find that there. I know for a while, Paragon was like giving 15% off on their website, but I think that stopped. So if you missed that, hey, you still got an option to get some money off, but you're going to have to get it off through an avenue like this one. All right, let's go to review. Okay, if you're actively watching along, on the left side is obviously the new, the right side is the old. Like I said, we're going to do a bit of comparison in some spots. Other spots, I'm not going to go through that because I don't necessarily think that's as useful, but we're going to see. Also, what you might notice, depending on timing, lighting is going to change in the video for my purpose, and clothes may change as well. It is currently very late at night. I was going to start earlier, but it may not look it, but it's a new microphone. The same type of mic, but the old one broke as I was going to sit down to record, so I had to replace that. And then the fridge, the compressor started going, so I had to move everything out of there and all. So I'm starting like 3+ hours later than I intended. I doubt I'm doing it all tonight, but we'll pick up as we need to whenever that is. All right, so Army's rules. Their current Army rule is the Master's Touch. So they always had a rule of essentially they had three different pieces. I said they had the Underspire, Sovereign Lineage, and Directorate. They still have those, but they've to a rather large extent have changed what they do. Some of them very much so, some a little bit less so. But let's talk about these. So you're going to choose a sect. By choosing a sect, your army gains the respective special abilities and special rules. And these greatly determine what you're going to want to put in your army or what you're going to maybe want to focus on. So, and the other thing they said they added is there's flavor text and lore and all that in every single entry, everywhere, all over the place. I do think they're very interesting Peace, I mean, these are essentially your space aliens in your Western sort of, or high fantasy, or not really necessarily even high fantasy, mid to low fantasy setting. So, very cool idea. I do like a lot of the sculpts. I like the unsurprising alien look. And let's go through and hopefully like the rules. So, under Spire, Violent Delirium. It's always active, so friendly drone regiments can heal while broken and get an Indomitable X, where X is the resolve bonus based on the number of stands. So keep in mind, if you have 4 stands, you get a +1. It's at, I think, 7 stands, you get a +2. It's at 6 or 7, I think it's 7. So +2 and so on. So this is pushing into taking those, 6, 7, potentially bigger blocks of drones and all. And in addition, friendly drone and clones get regen +2, so you can regenerate some. And notice it is regeneration +2, so if you have other sources of it, this does add on to that because that's what the plus can do. So what they used to get, essentially what this one did, is it gave certain units, mostly drones and Strix, regen 4, so maybe not quite as much. Although I will say, one of the issues you would have is your units might break before they actually get a chance to regenerate. And that means they lose it previously. Well, no, now you can heal anyway when you're broken. And you're more survivable because you're at least probably starting at big groups. And, you get a little bit more of that Indomitable. So you're going to take at least a few less wounds. So they're upping survivability in a little more interesting ways rather than giving that flat out 4. I really like this. Now, I am personally not the type to take lots of like drone type units. That's just not the playstyle I prefer. I prefer Avatara, or in this, it's mostly the Husks units. That's just me personally. But I've played against and have once or twice played where you got like, the 7 block of drones with a character in it and all of that. So if that is your playstyle, if you were dancing around with that, sort of, they're tough to contend with because there's a good amount of them, and healing up and all of that, you can do that just as effectively, I think, here, and probably better, honestly. And more units, because your clone units get that regen as well, where in the other thing under Spire they did not. So I like it. It's not exactly my playstyle, but I think it's good. Directorate, uh Lobotomitic Override. Always active, so once per round, immediately upon drawing command card, but before performing any of the draw events. So pull the card. I guess it's revealed to your opponent. I guess technically it would have to be because you drew it. I don't know if there's a separate spot of showing them or not, but either way, I'm not one to necessarily hide that sort of information, but I would say, okay, so you reveal your command card, but before performing a draw events, you may place next to your command stack face down. Oh, sorry, there it is, without revealing it. Good. My apologies. I'm glad they clarified that because just the draw doesn't clarify it. So pull a card, make a decision. You can essentially put next to your stack and draw the next card. So instead of playing the card active, play the card underneath of it. And that card that you did can either go on the top or the bottom of the stack. And then you proceed to activate that second unit. So this is like a combination of City State's command stack idea, where theirs is a much more of a delay. They pull a card and just don't go, and then later can essentially double go. Here, you can essentially, once per round, decide instead of the unit I have now, I'd rather the next unit go, and then I can choose where to place this one. If we compare this, what did they do before? This was, depending on who you took, people got some burnout. And you could get, yeah, and you got some biomancies. That's essentially what I got before. I think this is exceedingly strong ability. Just to make sure we understand why it is so strong. So let's say it's round 4 or 5. You are set up for maybe a couple charges or a big fight somewhere, and it is, okay, we're looking at the stack, and you could even say maybe we got an even amount of units, so no one has the advantage on the roll. It's going to be a pure dice off to see who gets it. Well, there's two things I want to do. I want to, attack on the left side and charge on the right. And those are obviously the things that you want to be potentially doing as well, because you and your opponent are agreeing in this circumstance. That happens a lot. We're both looking at, whoever gets this charge is going to be able to do a whole lot to the other. We're already in combat. Whoever gets this fight is going to do tons to the other. And I don't know about you, but it's happened to me on many occasions where I make my plan, we roll off, say I miss the goes first, the opponent goes, say, on the left side, and that is the first card I went with as well, which means they've hit me hard. I hit back very meekly because I've lost a lot of stands. My regiment, maybe it's broken, I'm not inspired anymore, whatever it may be. All kinds of terrible things. And then now, their second card they pull, they go with the right. And that means I'm one behind on both of the very important things. I am now potentially down either activations, effectiveness, something. What this lets you do is then say, hey, we pulled that. They won it. I could put the top two cards for the thing I truly want to do, that timing issue. And then if you happen to win it and you've went with the left, I can now skip the left and go to the right. So it allows me that flexibility to respond as if I was going first. You essentially can, plan to be first or second on your top two cards, and it won't matter which one happens. Now, I'm sure there's tons of other plays you could do with this happening a bit later on in the deck. I could see this especially in near the end when you're debating which unit to, say, push forward or to bring on. I have two units that have to come on, but I really like to see, which side this unit, I really want to make sure I see which side they put, say, their archers on. Something like that, you might be able to flip-flop the cards a little bit. But how many times, let me put it this way, how many times have you played a game where at the end you said, you know what? Like, did well or poor, wherever it may be. Oh, but you know what? That turn when I lost that initiative, that really hurt. Here's these sort of things that happened from that. You know what? They did this play that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I thought they might, but I didn't really know. I planned the other way, and they got me because I was off by one. You're not going to be off by one then. I would say in the early rounds, you're using this to choose who's the last one to go. Especially if maybe you have two different like shooting units or something like that, or you want to do a push somewhere. And I'm saying in those sort of mid rounds, potentially even the later ones as well, but at least those mid rounds, you're using it when I really need one of two things to happen. I don't know which one's going to happen first because I don't know who's going to go first. And hey, if you happen to win it, then you could just save it for later. But I think this one is exceedingly strong, so much better than it was before to me, at least. I absolutely love that one. I also love Sovereign Lineage. Both of so the Directorate one plays into my personal style of just sort of the mind games or the timing game, because this game, a lot of the complexity comes into timing as well as movement. And Sovereign Lineage plays into just the models that I love. So Sovereign Lineage before, you could increase, clashes for 10 points. Actually, very, very good. I have to take a quick look to compare some clash characteristics to see. It was only for certain ones in the band, so there's only a few, but that was very, very good. My hope is that what they have now reflects this. Okay, so magnanimity. Always active. While performing clash or volley actions targeting an enemy regiment that has any wounded stands. All friendly Huss regiments gain the inspired and aim shot special rule until the end of that action. So you're more effective when someone is partially injured. Now, one thing I will say, by wording, and they could always change a little bit, or maybe this is intended or not. By the wording, you're talking about wounded stands. Dead stands, do dead stands count as wounded stands? My guess would be no. Let me take a look. Yeah, so I went back to the rulebook just to make sure I was clear on the wording. They specifically call out that stands with wounds are called wounded stands, which means if I hit, I've done 4 wounds to you, and your stand has 4 wounds, and you're not carrying anything over, the rule won't apply. So you do need to have stands that you don't hit the exact numbers on. Not that that's going to happen super, super often, but by the current wording, and this may very well change by the time you see this because it's going to take me about a day or so to record this. But with the current wording, if they're not holding wounds on them, it won't apply. So just do be careful with that. Be careful if, I was going to shoot them with my Leon and Avatara, but I did the exact amount of wounds to have none left over. And there's still like 2 stands. You might not get it. But you get inspired to name shots. That, to me, is absolutely huge. So if you're in combat and they're already partially hurt and you hit them, let's just assume they're partially hurt, then you're just inspired. There's no concern about that. Which means since I got that free inspired, I swing. Maybe now I take them down. And if I already started in combat, then that means, hey, now you can maybe get your free charge, or at least a free move. This means the inspired special shots rule can. Let me check one other thing. Yep, that's what I thought. Keep in mind, though, this doesn't help with hindering, because hindering says that if you have too many stands going through, hindering terrain, for instance, not that other things would be hindering, but essentially through hindering terrain, that turn, they cannot benefit from the inspired rule. It's not that they don't get the auto-inspired, they just can't even benefit from it, so this wouldn't apply there. This also means, say for your Leon and Avatara, you could now move and shoot with the best effect if they've already taken a couple pot shots. So that means now you are adding quite a bit to their distance they can shoot. As someone who has played, volley 3 sort of things with, or even in cases where I've done volley 2 with good AP, yeah, getting the 1 extra absolutely takes them up a huge notch. This is something you're going to have to keep an eye on. This is something where maybe I shoot you. Oh, I'm in range. Maybe I shoot you to put a few wounds on you. So that way my unit that's touching you gets this automatic rule. And maybe now they can charge in the thing behind them. The thing that you thought was safe because these guys were in the way. And it was going to take me too many actions. I mean, how many times have we tried where back and forth? Okay, should I inspire? Oh, if I don't, I'm going to lose this many hits and I need to do this much damage. Oh, it's, that spot where it's closer. I'll try for it and it better go great because I would really like to have the second action to go do something with, and you fail. Or you do the inspire and swing and it was such an overkill you didn't need it. This is a very strong safety net. So I'm looking at for this to make my shooting even better for my husks. Husks are, we haven't went through it yet. They're the Avatar type units are husks. But I can shoot better, and I get essentially an extra free action when I'm in close combat and you have been wounded. So, absolutely love this. I would say overall, army rules, much, much better. I really think these are... The ones before, they had some flavor, but these ones have strength. Still good flavor. For me personally, Sovereign Lineage is the one I like the most. And that's just because I love Husk units. I love our Avatar units. Those are the ones that I like. Actually, I have a box of Centaur Avatar upstairs. Might actually assemble those at one of these points. And I have some other Spires stuff that maybe I'll get to one of these days. But right now, you can't see it. Oh, no, it's downstairs. I got a big old Drake that I have to paint. So that's what we're working on next. All right, that is army rules. Actually, technically, there's more army rules. Let's go through the rest of what constitutes army rules here. Before, that's essentially where it ended. So, strains. One, they've changed decay because we're going to talk about decay. Decay now is a flat 1 per stand if you're not a monster, and 3 if you are a monster. So what strains are, as it says, these are abilities that you have that you can choose to trigger, and if you do, then you suffer decay. Like I said, for that decay, and some people suffer less because there's ways to suffer less. Most of the Avatar units suffer less because they're superior creations. That's what superior creations does now. You take 1 less wound from decay. It's in addition to draw events. So if you have a draw event, you can still do your draw event and this. And specifically, they call out that if your opponent has a rule that prevents draw events, it doesn't prevent you from using your strain if you choose to. They are situational. Some are very, very good. Some are great where you're going to want to use them in most situations. Some of them not quite so much. But if you want it, you have access to it. If you don't need it right then, you can save yourself those wounds. So that's what they do. A very cool way to give them an ability, but give them that sort of negative or a little bit of a downside that Spires always sort of had. You know, they're pushing these creations to their absolute limit. You know, they're creating, drones or clones. Oh, you don't need an immune system if you're only going to be here for like 2 days, kind of thing. So we're going to push you. And I like what they did to K rather than just the burnout, because you could roll great and suffer nothing, or you could roll really poorly on that, and you might have lost multiple stands. So the other thing to talk about is bioengineered subjects. Some characters, like Biomancer Ferromancers, have prediction or actions, and they do that. So they had actions before. Essentially, they're just stipulating a little bit more. You can only be targeted by one prediction or action, and effects don't stack. Okay, so that is army rules. We're going to get into a bit about supremacies and things that the characters can do. Okay, we're going to talk about the supremacies. Mention again mostly what they do now, a little bit of what they did before, and in ways in which they are better or potentially worse. And then we're going to get into the characters as well. Ferromancers, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience using Ferromancers. I just always use Biomancers more. Not that there's anything wrong with them, I just never really did it. Essentially, they used to give, if that was your warlord, in reality, you never took the Biomancer as the warlord, or really the Biomancer. You probably never really took most of them as warlord, because the High Clone Executor warlord ability was so amazing. Firemancer used to be some reroll resolves. What Firemancer does now, you may perform a free additional practitioner action, so you can do an extra one. You cannot perform the same Ferromancy more than once in a single round. Or, sorry, single activation, I should say. So if you like them, you can do a little bit more with them. And always active. Hey, when friendly drone, clone, and monstrosity. So drone, clone, husk, and monstrosities are all the labels. So everything but your husk, everything essentially except your avatar units. Activate their strain expression draw event. They may exchange their strain ability and instead add +1 to their clash and +1 to their march. So you can just stack yourself better. And that clash can be up to a 4. I'm not sure if anyone's already naturally sitting at 4 characters, I guess, technically. So instead of whatever your strain does, if you don't happen to like it, just get better. That's pretty good, especially if you're looking to charge. If you have a unit, because this doesn't then stop you from inspiring. So whatever your base number is, you could be at a +2, that +1 to your march. And it's the march characteristic. So that means it does apply on charge as well, because charge takes your march characteristic and adds a d6. Unlike some other things that alter the march, not the characteristic. So I actually do like what the Pharaohmancer does. And hey, his regiment doesn't take wounds from decay. So you can use this strain ability that he's in, or or you can do the other ability up in the Clash and all. What can he take? Actually, let me do it this way to prevent me from essentially going back and forth constantly on the other thing. So Ferromancer, so for what he can put himself in, well, for what he can take, the gain is the mainstay of brutes. He never had those before. He had them as restricted. So they got pushed. He's got the abomination. He's got the consumption. He had a bomb before, but now he's got consumption and desolation. He didn't have the 4 desolation zones and the surveyor. He had prowlers, which never were a thing. At least I don't think they were. So he can go in force grown drones. Then he could go desolation drones. So they stop characters or anything from going in. No. Okay. And what is their strain? Suppression agents. Uh, Strain expression. That's their draw event. Oh, so the draw event. Wait. Uh, in addition to, or did they just put that down and then? That's weird. So the draw event. Oh, okay. So it is technically a draw event, but they're strain. So you can give them deadly shots if you want it for free. You could put him in there, or like I said, you could put him with the force-grown drones. There might be some upgrades that let him go somewhere else. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But either way, then you can put him in the giant unit force-grown drones. What does force-grown drones one do? We'll talk about him himself here as well. So force-grown drones, like I said, they have some regen. This one, they get lethal demise. Okay. Yeah, that's not so great, but putting them to Clash 2 to move 6 and then Inspire makes them Clash 3 means they actually do something. They're still not amazing, but I mean, they do have their shield, they have good support, so you can get something more to happen with them if you want to put him in there. And he does help just those other types of units in the army as well. Even on some of your monstrosity, there's been plenty of cases where just an extra one to the march could absolutely be the thing that you need. You're just a little bit too far. You don't have unstoppable, no reroll. Hey, that +1. I mean, how many times have we looked for like a 3-up or 4-up and just miss it? So, not bad for what he does. You know what? Let's use this. Let me do it this way. Let's also just talk about him as a character then. Um, he's not going to thrill you with his base stats, low number of wounds, stuff like that. We talked about that. For his Ferromancies, if he's your warlord, he gets to do 2 of them. But otherwise, he can give someone untouchable. Aura is one of the rules they put out. Essentially, you measure from the stand out that number of inches. In this case, certain things within 12 and so on. So until the end of the round, friendly drones and clones that are within 12 reroll resolve tests of 6, and the regiment the character's in gets Tenacious 1, which is definitely good, especially if you're going to a unit with not a great defense stat. Fermented Compulsion. Target enemy monster regiment within 12 counts as 0 stance for purposes of seizing and contesting. Ooh, that's really good. Especially, I mean, if he was your ruler, that being the extra is very, very nice. There is also a way with some of these, if you take a big enough block of, I think it's the force-grown drones, to make them scoring, because you can make them mediums. Target enemy regiment within 12 does not benefit from Inspire aim shots. So Siphon Strength. So depending on exactly what it is you want to do, like I said, things don't stack. But depending on what you want to do, you can either help yourself. Untouchable is nice. Touchable is especially nice if you have a good defense. It's any friendly regiment, so I'm even thinking like a unit of Avatar who are on defense 4 with very low wounds. 4s rerolling 6s means you are now twice as survivable as you used to be, or just about. So that's pretty nice. So I do like the Ferromancies. They're less complicated than they were before. I found last time the Ferromancies were very much draw a card, do a thing, put someone on the bottom of the stack. They were kind of a hassle to use. Now, if someone is a diehard Spires fan, let me know if they were actually good or not. I just think they were rough. So, but that's me. Apis eccentricities and mutations, essentially upgrades we'll talk about later, the sorts of ones they can do. This is sort of a bit of an overview. We're going to go everything but overview, but we're probably going to either at the end or depending on how long this runs, in a separate one, go over, okay, what kind of things would you do to the character? What kind of stuff would you take on them? I'm not going to worry about that right for this second. That's not how I start to analyze. I don't start by thinking about what kind of stuff can I throw on them, think about what can they do now, and then what can I change. All right, take a look at the Biomancer. Biomancer, before I thought you got some extra Biomancies. Oh, no. If you're on objective zone, you counted in range for Biomancies. So what Biomancer does now, hey, he gets a free additional partitioner action. Same thing that the Ferromancer had. And he gets field studies. So you create a spot, and what is it? Every time Any regiment is destroyed. You put a token in your pool. You can have a max of 3 tokens, and you can spend them. So for 1 token, when you perform a petitioner action, when you're warlord, and he would be your warlord, when he performs a petitioner action, you spend 1 token, and you roll 1 additional die. Then set a die of your choice to the. Then select a die of your choice as the result. So if a rule says, hey, 2d6, you can roll 3d6 and spend them as you want. Let's talk about the other ones real fast, and then we'll pull him up to make some more sense of that. 2 tokens. You can, when someone expresses their strain, spend 2 tokens. They don't take decay. Especially useful on the monsters, because the monsters do take 3. So if your monster's in a spot where he's taking some wounds, or you know he's going to take some, and you want the strain, but you want to avoid those 3 damage, or you got a giant brick of something, say drones, you'd like to use their ability, but if you use it, I'm taking 5, 6, 7 wounds, you can prevent all that. Or 3 tokens. Upon drawing the last command card in your stack, you may choose to spend 3 tokens. If it's a non-monster, get rid of broken and heal them 5. So, as long as you don't put a monster in the last few, yes, I know it says the very last, but let's face it, maybe your opponent will destroy the unit that you had previously in the last, but you don't put you had them right near the end, then you're going to get to heal someone up. I guess if your very last card is destroyed no matter what, it wouldn't go off. So I guess that doesn't really matter, but I would still be careful with what I kind of place near the end. Don't put something that, without this heal, I'm done. Put someone who's been injured, but is in a spot where they're not really going to take much damage this turn, or the opponent, they're behind the other unit that the opponent's fighting, so I'm waiting on them so I can go and hit someone with them. I'm waiting for you to destroy my unit so I can hit you back. But heal 5 is big. That's a lot of heal. Let's actually take a look at the Biomancer. Discuss a little bit of stats. Again, he's not going to wow you with his prowess in combat. We talked about his Supremacy ability. Let's take a look at his Biomancies, and we know there's an option that can get you some more rolls. You target a friendly regiment within 12 and roll 2d6. All enemy regiments currently in contact with the target regiment immediately suffer X hits with the armor piercing 1 special roll, where X is the higher of those 2 rolls. Hits from this do not cause morale tests. So for 1, instead of rolling 2d6, you can roll 3d6. Better odds at getting closer to that 6. Catalytic Rupture. Good. Honestly, good. Especially if you have your character go first and your unit is stuck on someone with very few wounds left. Here's a way to maybe just plink them down. As this transfer, target friendly regiment within 12 inches may immediately roll 2d6 and suffer wounds equal to the lowest of those dice results. No morale test from that. Target another friendly monster regiment within non-monster regiment within 12, and they'll heal 4. So again, if you're worried about taking a bunch of damage, you could roll an extra die, potentially with his ability if some other unit on the battlefield has been killed, and hey, you get to heal 4. And keep in mind, your drones and clones, no, my apologies, drones, I think. Stuff's all new, so I make sure we got it right. Oh, your drones can heal even when broken. So if you are running good amount of drones, that Biomancy is good, and maybe casting 2 can be helpful. Grant Virulence. Target regiment that's within 12. It suffers 1d6 hits with armor piercing X rule, where X is equal to 6 minus the result of the roll. These wounds do not trigger morale tests. Okay. Interesting. So you take d6 hits, and the armor piercing is 6 minus the roll. So if you roll a 3, they're taking 3 armor piercing 3 hits. If you roll like a 5, it's 5 armor piercing 1 hits and all. Okay. Or don't target someone with good evade. But if they have a couple bits of armor, you're probably likely to roll, technically overall you roll just about anything. But you're probably likely to get at least 2 to 3 hits and have at least a few points of AP, maybe get a few in. I like it overall. The first one, The first one is better if someone's actually touching your unit, and also it doesn't do damage to you. But the Grant Virulence is good if no one's actually on the unit that you want to target, if they're hanging out. Unstable Enhancement. Target friendly non-monster regiment within 12 inches rolls a d6 and gains one of the following effects based on the result of the roll until the end of the turn. Then we said keep in mind you could roll 2 dice if you're willing to spend one of those markers you might have if he's your warlord. If he's not your warlord, you're just going for it. 1 to 2, extra march. 3 to 4, extra clash to a maximum of 4. 5 to 6, 1 more volley to a maximum of 4. Alternatively, before rolling the d6, you may instead have the regiment roll 2d6 and suffer wounds equal to the lower roll and choose the effect that you want. These wounds do not trigger morale tests. If he's not your warlord and you're not going to use essentially his 1 coin ability, then you probably almost definitely it's going to be rare. Oh, excuse me. It's going to be rare that you're okay with a march or a clash or a volley. Usually, clash or volley, those units are very, very different units. It's pretty rare that you're going to want to do both. It's probably almost near impossible that like both are viable options. And if you're already in combat, then you could care less about the marching or the volleying. So it kind of feels like one where you're probably going to want to do those two and just see what happens, unless like 2 out of 3 are okay. If you were gonna, it adds to your march characteristics. So if you were gonna, move and shoot, then maybe you're okay with it because 2/3 of the time it's okay. If I get to roll for 2, sure. Well, I guess if you don't need to heal and there's not opponents within 12 to do something, you roll for this on the unit, on whichever unit you're picking, and you hope. Otherwise, it's probably one of the better targets for getting those extra dice onto it. All right, we can see the sorts of things that he takes. So he can obviously go in some drones or some clones. And he's got some big scary monsters for his restricted. I don't remember what he took before, so I just want to take a quick. There he is. So the main didn't change. He used to be able to take a siege breaker. He no longer takes a siege breaker. Otherwise, he looks, I think he's identical. Otherwise, obviously, he also takes consumption, which wasn't a thing before, but he lost siege breaker. That's okay. I personally want a siege breaker though. If I'm doing this army, I'm putting a siege breaker in. Okay, let's take a look at High Clone Executor. Let's look at what his new one does, because his old one was amazing. His old one, choose on the turn when you draw your first card. Now you're going to draw 3 cards, so you could technically have three turns in a row. Absolutely amazing. I don't know why you take anyone else as your old warlord. So now is his Ruthless Competence. Once per round, the warlord may choose to make use of the following ruthless competencies. 1. Immediately upon a friendly clone regiment declaring a clash or volley against an enemy within effective range, it gets opportunists. So good if they're in the flank or rear. 2. Immediately a friendly clone regiment being declared as the target of an enemy regiment's clash, the enemy doesn't get inspired. So, there's quite a few units that are on like 2s. They go to 3 as well, the rules, so useful. 3. When a friendly regiment is destroyed, target friendly clone regiment within 12 to form an out-of-sequence march action. So I play a Song of Ice and Fire, or at least I have in the past. I haven't played in a little while now. That is an effect that some armies have of, you've done something to one of my units, I play a card, and now my other unit gets to go somewhere. Once per round, the warlord may make use of one of the following ruthless competencies. There's no range requirement, so that helps. I will say for the moment. Okay, his ability was going to change. There's no way they're going to keep that. It is super strong and amazing, and I loved it. But they were never going to keep that. However, I'm not sure how I feel about this. The third one, the clone marching, I can see that that feels situational, but maybe that march puts you onto an objective that you previously were off of. Oh, it's a clone unit. Maybe you're able to get into a better position. You're able to use it to not a wheel technically, but essentially use it to rotate a bit, kind of like a wheel, because now I have the correct facing because you shot your unit past me. I can see some uses for that. And let's face it, you're gonna have units are gonna die no matter what. The second one, when there declares the target, I can remove Inspire from you. Essentially, I can have Dread for a bit. Nice. The fact that you can only use one, and it's all on clones. So you've got to do this on your clone units. So you must want it on the clone units. So, I mean, he's a high clone executor. Cool. That's what he's going to take. But then, or you get opportunist. So if you happen to get into the sides and all, at least you can choose when it happens. Okay, and if you're taking under Spire, your clones at least get regen. With him, then you might still want Directorate. So that way, if he's your warlord, so that way you can kind of still get a little bit of that deck stacking. Yes, you're not going to get 2 actions in a row, but you're getting something somewhat similar to what it did. At least you get some options, some choice. I'm not sold on it entirely. I do like the fact that you can kind of pick at your whim, and depending on what you actually want. But I'm a little back and forth on how strong I truly feel it is. Now, again, this is early thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this one is absolutely, utterly amazing. Maybe I'm just not thinking of it right now. I said I don't do tons with like clones. So, and even him, it's bound and vanguards. He does take marksman as well. All right. So for him, he has a few more attacks. Okay, defense, good resolve, which always helps, of course. He's base 2, cleave, flurry, and he has tenacious 1. So he gets that, and he has his action. So he has symbiotic command. It's a combat outcome action. Target friendly clone regiment within 12 inches gains double time. Double time. Hey, if you do 2 marches, you get a 3rd march for free. So he could put it on his own unit or a different one. He is one, like I said, we haven't gone through a lot of the mutations, stuff like that. This is a character that normally you want to take mutations and that kind of stuff on, because that's what really gets him going. Like, what's his clash is base 3. 5 attacks isn't huge, but you could make him an extra clash, or just get him an extra attack, give him to 6 attacks. I guess if you're going to inspire, maybe it's not quite as important. He should be a clone. Yeah, good. He's a clone character. So you could give his regiment untouchable when they do their strain. You usually want to give him a little something extra to try to really get them going, because you're not super impressive until you get some of those extras. You can make him a marksman to put him in marksman clones. Okay, so we see a few things. Or infiltrator, you can make him like one of them instead. Clone infiltrators, because he's allowed to buy 2 of them. Okay, 2 mutations or eccentricities in any combination. So max at 2, but it could be 1 of 1. Okay. I don't know. I'm not super thrilled with him personally, but that's just me. Nothing wrong with him. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how awesome this is, but that might just be because I don't run a lot of clones. Maybe that's the problem. Clones aren't necessarily my thing, but negating someone being inspired can be very, very big. And getting that march when someone is destroyed, if nothing else, say you're running some strix, you just threw them in someone's face. Hey, I'm getting a clone now to get pushed forward. Oh, actually, the more I think about it, the better that 3rd one is. Because maybe I'm out of range or out of good charge range, and you've just somewhere on the board blew up a unit of my Strix. Now I move forward. the 5-6 inches, whichever one it is, depending on your march, one of those sort of numbers. And now I'm either in auto charge range or in very good charge range, and now my bound clones are into you, or something like that. So I think it's good. It just doesn't fit exactly the playstyle that I like, but I do think you have some good pieces there. I think maybe that's, depending on what's happening, maybe that's one of the good ones to play for. When you know unit's going to go down, I use this on another one that would have been out before, would have been too far away. Instead, they'd have to do a move charge. Well, hey, now they can just do a charge attack. All right, Lineage Pryborn. Let's talk about him. So, horse-ish guy. What did he do before? He hunter-killer teams and all. Oh, he chose someone as prey. They got some extra impact and some other stuff. All right, all friendly Huss regiment gain the designate target special rule. Let's talk about what that is. When this regiment inflicts a wound upon an enemy regiment during a clash, charge, or volley action, the regiment becomes marked. When friendly regiments perform a charge action against a marked regiment, they add 2 to their charge distance and reroll failed hits until the end of the charge action. So on your impacts. What it used to do before is essentially they would get +2 to the number of impacts. So now you're more likely to get the charges, and you're getting to re-roll those impacts. That's really, really good. And all your friendly Huss regiments gain this. So you could shoot them with your Leonin Avatara, and then charge them with when this regiment when any friendly regiment perform a charge. So it doesn't even have to be a Husk unit that charges. I could shoot them, like I said, with my, say, Leonin Avatar. I got a wound on you. You are now marked. And now I could charge you with literally anything that I feel like. Yeah. You might not get the reroll failed hit rolls until the end of the charge action part, because maybe you don't have impacts on some of those things, but the +2 to charge distance could actually make the difference as well. All right, inactivated part. All friendly regiments gain the sure shot special rule, and their entire barrage range becomes effective range until the end of the round. Yeah. I sure shot is off of effective range, if memory serves. So now you get that. Also means even if you're trying to go for objectives, hey, the whole thing or whatever you want. All right, I like the Lineage Pryborn. I like what he does. Him as a warlord feels pretty decent. For which, and I had to scroll back because I don't want to get wrong when I say which name. No, it wasn't that one. Sovereign Lineage could potentially come into play as well. Again, if you're taking one of him, yeah, you're probably taking Sovereign Lineage so that you can have those aim shots, so those units can move and shoot nicely or anything like that. Especially in this case, you're talking about the shooting. All right, let's take a look at him himself. He's 5 wounds, nice 4 resolve, 3 defense, all of that. We talked about his supremacy. He has acute senses. Oh yeah, so acute senses is one of the what they changed. So it's something they added. They removed fluid formation from some people, and they gave them acute senses. The regiment counts all their arcs as front, and the stands ignore each other for person determining line of sight and check it for obstruction. What that doesn't do is allow you to shoot from the side and everyone shoot, technically right now by the rules, because it was never line of sight that was preventing the other units from shooting. It's that only your first rank actually shoots. So by the wording, it really doesn't help. I think it's supposed to. I think the intention is everyone just gets to shoot, but we need some clarity on that. There might be clarity by the time this comes out. I don't know. Yes, Ceaseless Hunter. His unit gets fire in advance. If the regiment performs a volley action as its second action during the activation, for additional march immediately after the volley action, you cannot move sideways or backwards. So essentially, you could push up. It's fire and advance. Okay. Barrage 4, 14 inch. My guess is that's the same as these guys. They were Barrage 3, but same sort of thing. Armor Piercing 2 with Deadly Shot. So you roll a 6, they take 2 wounds instead. Once per game, you can give them Sure Shot. Everything has effective range, so everyone's getting more shots as well. And he's taking Centaurs, Leonin, Vanguard Clones. Was he taking anything different before? He actually taking the Vanguard Clones now, because the Vanguards are the ones that shoot. I believe so. No. Oh, sorry, no, Vanguard Clones don't shoot. It's the Infiltrators that do. Okay. Marksman Clones, which he couldn't do before. Avatar and Strix. So he lost Incarnate Sentinels, but he gained Strix and Marksman Clones. He cares about shooting, so he has at least 2 shooting type units, and the rest of your army, that one ability applies to anything in your army, so if you're taking a few more. And he can't take more than 2 Centaur Avatar, and no more than 2 Leonin Avatar. Which, yeah, him with 2 and 2 is probably the very popular thing that you go with. I think it's good. I've played enough of Old Dominion where AP2 shots are very, very important. And AP2 shots do real damage to people. And he's on a base volley of 3. His friends were base volley of 3. And if you take the right type, and someone's wounded, you could be on base volley of 4. So you could get that 8-inch move and then take your 14-inch shots instead on 4s instead of just the 3s. So, yeah. He is both good, and I like what he does. That designate target is very nice, especially if you just do a move and shoot. At AP2, even if you're not inspired, there's a very good chance they'll take a wound. They'll hopefully take more than that. But it's not like when you're shooting on the 2s and you have no AP and you're just hoping you get enough through and they have bad enough dice. If you're shooting something that you should, that's not just purely off of evade, AP2 is probably enough to sneak in 1 or 2 at minimum. So you're probably getting that ability. The Lineage Highborn. Let's take a look. What did he do? I don't know their other supremacies because who bothered ever using them? You get some mutations for free. You could take 3 mutations on him or on the Namek Assassin. For him, Lambs of Slaughter activated, so once per game. All friendly Husk regiments treat every hit roll of 6 as a 1 when doing clash volleys and impacts. Ooh. And his regiment's fearless. That one's just fun. If you're rolling lots of Husk units, which is honestly what I personally would do, especially if you took it... I always forget which one it is. Sovereign Lineage. I should remember Sovereign Lineage. If you went Sovereign Lineage and you've been damaging things appropriately, so you're hitting on one better because your clash is essentially you're automatically inspired, makes it a little bit easier, even if not, or if you just do inspire action. If you're thinking of someone who gets to say 4s, they're only really failing on 5s. Or if you have flurry, you're probably succeeding on effectively everything. Kind of thing. So, and if you have a rule that triggers off of 1s, even better. And I don't know everything right now, but I guarantee there's at least something. I'm sure there's a few things that do. But you're at least 16% more effective on everything you do on your Husk units in a turn. Keep in mind, you can choose the turn you're using this after you roll Supremacy. So you'll know what matters, and especially if it's that turn where I was hoping I win because I've set up to have my Centaurs hit people and all these other things, and you've won the roll, set it off. Overall good. I think there's a decent chance that you miss it, that you either time it wrong or your opponent does something, or sometimes they act in a way you weren't expecting, so you didn't get quite as much. And let's face it, you've announced it to your opponent. Depending on who you're playing, if you're playing Euroni, be very careful, because as soon as you do this, oh, okay, so I know what you want to do. You've activated that unit there. Where's your next Husk unit that's setting up to do something? Well, I'm going to hit them first. But still actually very cool. It's fun. Even if it doesn't do the most for you, it is a fun ability. So he has 6 attack. He's a big boy. He's 6 attacks. He's 5 wounds. He's got the 4 defense like the Avatar, because essentially he's that. He's sitting on basic Clash 4. He's got Cleave 1. He has Flawless Strikes. Oh, so like he has Flawless Strikes. So hey, if he rolls a 1 or on that special turn 1s or 6s, they don't get to use their defense. And he has Imposing Excellence. This character and the Husk Regiment they're currently attached to gain parry. Parry, I think, is on 1s. Their enemy stands engaged with a stand with a special rule cannot reroll failed hit and cannot reroll failed hit rolls against the character stand with a special rule. Okay, that's fine. No more than 2 Incarnate Sentinels. He takes Avatar and Bound Clones. I think before he only took like Avatara. He might have taken more. Lineage Highborn. Yeah, no, it just used to be Avatar. At least now he can take something else. He can take some Bound Clones. They must really want to just get Bound Clones out there. Because that was a spot people really couldn't do before. Otherwise, he gains the Abomination, which he couldn't do before. He has Siegebreaker. So far, he's the only one I think we've seen. I don't think the High Clone took Siegebreaker. No, he did. Okay, so they can take Siegebreaker, not the casters types, essentially. He also gets, he has the Leonin, Vanguard Clone Infiltrators was a gain. And Incarnate no, he had Incarnate Sentinels, but now at least you're limited. Why did they limit? I'm just curious. All right, well, yeah, Cleave 2, Fearless, Fearsome, and with Superior Creation, 5 attacks. Okay, yeah, I can see why they limited it. And unfortunately, Monstrosity, not Husk, but that's okay. So, depending on what you're running, if you're running a lot of Husks, if you're running, 2 Centaur Avatar, 2 Avatar, some Leonin Avatar, doing all of that, then yeah, run essentially the army I would play. Run this. Merchant Prince. So this is one of their new characters. Didn't have this thing before. Really neat. I want to talk about the Merchant Prince themselves first, and then I want to talk about their supremacy, and you'll see why. So 120 points. We haven't talked about points. I think points for most of these. Highborn went up by 20. Actually, I didn't think about mentioning points. Clone Executor went up by 10. Biomancer's the same. Prideborn is 10 more. Baromancer's 10 more. So about, on average, about 10 more points a guy. All right. His special rule is really neat. So once per round, before you roll reinforcements, you make an offer to your opponent. If your opponent accepts the offer, then you both get 1 extra regiment that will automatically succeed on that reinforcement roll. And notice it's on the reinforcement roll this round, and you select the regiment. You may select 1 additional regiment to only succeed. So you can get 1 more regiment each. But you will get Vanguard 3 on that selected regiment. So you can choose a regiment that will pass, and you'll get them to have Vanguard 3. But your opponent gets it as well. If your opponent declines it, then you may choose between rerolling 1 failed reinforcement roll that round, or once they've been made, choose a regiment not currently on the battlefield, so one that's going to come in to get Vanguard 3. And if both people have a Merchant Prince, then you may both propose something. However, multiple Merchant Princes in your own army doesn't let you do this multiple times. Okay. At the end of the day, in no way is that worth 120 points, but it is very cool and fun. Like, that's just a neat thing. The Vanguard is nice. Depending on how your opponent has rolled, they may want it. And if they don't, you could still get the Vanguard 2, you know what? Or get to reroll 1. So I guess the first one you'd have to decide, the reroll, I guess you'd have to decide before you see it. I'm not entirely sure. Not by their wording, it's not entirely clear. But if it's in a round where, you know what? And in that one, it could be the one that you autoed. So if you know, I'm not really concerned about how many things I get, but I'd really like my, marksman clones that have Vanguard. Because if they get Vanguard, they'll be shooting someone. Just give them Vanguard. So cool, not worth all the points. We will get to what makes him worth it. His stat line, again, he's not going to fight anyone. His resolve's only actually even the 3. He has 3 things in mainstay, and restricted is everything. You can take anything else. So 1, he's also at least nice, because let's face it, how many times, and I've run into this in Weavers many times actually, I want to take blank unit. Okay, what's the character tax then? Because I have to take a certain character to be able to get access to the unit because of who can take what and all that. We already showed with Abominations, it's, does the Prideborn take the A-Bomb? No. So for that, it's a High Clone Executor and Lineage Highborn. If you weren't going to take them, but you want to bring, sorry, not Abomination, sorry, Siegebreaker Behemoth, but you want one of those, well, it's a 90 or 140 point tax then. If you were taking this guy, because he's the new cool fun model with a weird cat thing, or she, it, whatever they want to call itself, then you could take it. And Bound clones, Force clone drones, Vanguard clones, you're probably going to potentially take some of those anyway. Let's go to Special Rule Master Manipulator. Sorry, not my apologies, not that. Where is it? The Supremacy. Let me put it here, actually. This will be bigger to say that. All right, so here's also why you take it, because the ability is neat. You can add in what you want, makes it a little, it avoids the excess character tax. And because this Warlord ability, before the first reinforcement phase, roll 5 dice. Note them in some way. It's your influence pool. I'd put them off to the side. Eldar had fate dice. If you've played Warhammer, it's that kind of idea. And during the course of the battle, when you're called to make a roll, it can't be reinforcement or supremacy. Can be anything else, but just can't be those two. That's okay. But before you roll them, the difference, I think, in Warhammer, Eldar fate dice, or once you roll the dice, you get to see. But hey, before you roll them, you can choose any of your dice from your influence pool and use them instead of rolling those results. You can't use them for reroll for the purposes of rerolling or anything like that. So start the game, roll 5 dice, and then you can choose to use those dice in various ways. If you happen to have a spot where you rolled a 6, well, that's your charge die. You rolled a 1, that's your save die, or your hit die, or your flawless strikes die, or something. The other nice part is, in addition, whenever you make a supremacy roll, you add that actual die, the unmodified die, but you add the die to your influence pool. So you're going to start the game with 6 dice, because you're going to make a supremacy in the first round. That means essentially you're going to have about 50, if you go through the entire game, and notice it's always active, so even if this character goes away, you'll have 15 dice across the game. Let's be honest, you're not going to need those dice early. Probably in the first 2 to maybe even 3 rounds, you're probably not going to use them. So most likely you're going to have a pool of probably 7 to maybe 8 dice. But between rounds 3 and round 4, now you're going to start getting to charges, starting to do attacks and things like that. So then you start using your dice. Like I said, I see this especially in terms of using for charges. If you roll any 6s or even 5s, hey, now my unit essentially, if I roll a 5, my unit effectively has Juggernaut, one of my units. You have that, or you could use them in biomancies, because it doesn't say you can't use it in a biomancy. So you could use it on, let me pull up here. So we're talking through some fun things you can do with it. I think this video might just be characters, because I've talked about characters for a while now. For his biomancies, target friendly regiment. So that's the healing one. I'm looking at this one. Roll 2d6. They take the higher the die. Oh, so I rolled I got a couple 5s, or maybe a couple 6s in there. I'll use it for catalytic rupture. I'll roll 2 dice, which means I'll put out a 6 and I'll roll another die. You're going to take 6 AP 1 hits. So there's another good spot. There's a few spots for your high numbers. And we know all the good spots for your low numbers. How many times have you had it where I really want this thing to trigger off? I get extras if I roll ones. Well, I could just do one of those, put a 1 in. I have it. Oh, you know what? I'm pretty low on wounds. I really need to make sure I save a few more. Use a few of the dice that would pass your save. Put them in. That way it's kind of like it's not exactly tenacious because you're going to roll less dice overall, but it's sort of like a faux tenacious. You have at least a few saves. How many times have you had it where you're going to roll this thing and you are destroyed to the wound or to the 2 wounds? You can use some of these to help survive that. Or your unstable enhancement. You want to use that? Hey, now you can just spend one of those dice to pick the exact thing you want. This is the new character. The ability is honestly really, really strong. And the other ability is fun because he is the new cool guy on the block. I don't know if any of these sorts of things. Oh, he's a clone. Okay. Giving him flank, I don't really care about. When the clone regiment this character attached to performs the clash action before you may. For every failed hit roll during the clash action, the clashing regiment takes a wound. Then the failed hit rolls are immediately converted to successful ones. Okay, so I don't know if necessarily you take a lot of things on him. I don't necessarily know if he needs that, but I do really like what the Merchant Prince does. Again, the special rule is neat. He can take anything, and then his supremacy. If you're taking him, I think he has to be your warlord. I don't know if he does enough otherwise for 120 points, unless for some reason you want a very particular unit and you're against the unit or so that can take it. Like maybe there's only like 1 or 2 units that can actually take it. So if that's the case, then obviously go for it. But otherwise, I think I would be very happy with him as my warlord. I think for me personally, for warlords, that's high clone, kind of cool. I like the lineage Prideborn. I definitely do that. Prideborn, Highborn, and Merchant. I'd probably take the Merchant as the main though, because I think that's just too fun. I would have to experiment with that for a while and find out if I never use it enough before I decide it's bad. But I would probably make him my warlord. If I was playing, I'd have him warlord for a while and really test that out. Other than that, then because I like running Husk units, I would go with the Prideborn otherwise. But I think the Merchant Prince, I think he's a great, great, great option. All right, one more character, but can't be the warlord, but we'll talk about it anyway. We'll talk about the Medic Assassin. All right, so it's never the warlord, doesn't have a warband, and it can be attached to anything as per the assassin directive. Essentially had a very similar thing before. He could attach to wherever he wants. The way he goes now is a little bit different, but essentially he just attaches to a unit. Still got Quicksilver Strike. He's Cleave 2. Didn't have Cleave. Oh god, he didn't have Cleave before base. Did he not? Oh, okay. When he was dueling someone, every defense caused 2 wounds instead. Doesn't stack. But there was nothing that forced them to say yes to the duel. Still has Flurry. He's 6 attacks naturally on 3s with the Quicksilver Strike, so very good in duels. So his directive. He doesn't actually now attach to a regiment. Before he essentially attaches to a regiment, he doesn't actually attach to a regiment now. At the start of the battle, at least. When a friendly infantry regiment that does not currently have a character attached to it declares a clash action, you may immediately replace a non-command stand in the first rank with this character. So he's sort of like Goblin Fanatics, if you played Warhammer Fantasy, he pops up. Although he does replace a stand, but he gets something for it. He doesn't help make them broken or shattered or anything like that. When you place him, you do the following things. 1, he inflicts X hits to a single enemy regiment in contact, where X is the number of wounds of the stand the character replaced. They do get the cleave 2, no morale though. So, it does have to be infantry regiment, but so 4, maybe 5 wounds. If someone's at 5, maybe they're all at 4. The character may immediately perform an out-of-sequence duel action, so he can immediately duel someone. If your opponent hasn't already declined, if your opponent's not in a position where they have to accept it, though, they'll probably decline. And then the character counts as has been activated, and the regiment they are currently attached to may continue performing its class action. And should the character not have entered the battlefield until the end of the game, they count as destroyed. Okay, 90 points. He went down to 60, which helps because he's neat, but probably not worth it. Even before, he probably wasn't worth it, but they've made him better. His clash is one worse at 3, but flurry, so I'm not quite as concerned about that. His evade actually went up, so he's a little bit better when he actually does get the duel. Same wounds. His resolve is garbage, but that's fine. But more attacks. More attacks with the worst clash is fine when you have flurry. I'm much less worried about that. He's neat because you can just pop him where you need. And, with cleave 2, that's pretty nice. And then in the future rounds when he's in there, now you do have a 6 attack, cleave 2 on 3s or 4s if inspired guy into that unit. And for 60 points, that's not bad in terms of what you're replacing with. I don't know if anyone has 5. 4 wounds. 4 wounds. Looking at things you could go into. Is everyone 4? Everyone might be 4. So essentially he'll get... Desolation drones, I guess, if you want to pop them in there. Because they are actually infantry. But otherwise, you're getting 4 auto. Neat. Not exactly what I would necessarily take. But if you have him and you want to, at least now you're doing it for cheaper, and he gets some auto hits in. So, and depending on the unit, if you put him into a unit that really wasn't going to cut anyone down before, now you have some at least a couple quality hits into someone. So, and then in the future, if they're still around, you get a good amount of quality hits into some people. All right, so that is the characters. I think we're probably going to break this up by pieces. Originally, I thought we'd go through it all at once, but I don't want a 5-hour video. People don't watch 5-hour videos. So I think rules and characters is good, and then I'll go through upgrades and then units and all of that. I know it splits it a little bit, but I like to think about the base characters first in terms of what can they do, and then, okay, now what can I make them do? Because if a character would be bad unless you put 50 points of upgrades on them, then it's a bad character. 50 points of upgrades making them really good means that character is essentially this new price. And if we see any of that, we'll talk about it. But I don't, my hope is that nothing feels automatic. Through the short bit I've looked at, they look like they've shortened the list a lot, which is probably good because there was a lot. Probably a little too much before. I'm just scrolling through them on the right side. Even like mutations. There were so many mutations to put together and all. And a lot of the mutations were very much, to make this thing work, I'm really going to end up taking 2. Because 1 doesn't do enough. To make me a full character, I'm going to take this one with this one. Where now, like, we've looked at them a little bit. We talked about them. Most of them seem reasonably cheap, seem reasonably decent as well, the sorts of things that they do. Like you have, you can make yourselves like a marksman, like a clone infiltrator. You could do those sort of things before. Induced fallen response. Okay, that's a little bit of, clone. You can unbreak like a dweg kind of thing. A turret. Okay. So, and Merchant Prince, hey, you become a brute, gain some impact, and add some clash and attacks. Hey, now you're going into a brute unit. Especially good for Ferromancers or Biomancers where, hey, I do something to my group if you're taking them as the warlord. Say like his Supremacy, no decay for the unit he's in. Hey, he can become and go in the brute drones. And that's actually the only one he gains by doing that. But that's not bad. If you want to put him in brute drones, now I can put him in brute drones. Brute drones, they got +1 cleave. So you could essentially, their impact 3 line breaker, you can give them a cleave. So cleave and line breaker, now you're really actually starting to carve into people. So a variety of options, but I think we'll go through those. Do I want to do it separate or do I want to do it now? Let me think. I said we're going to do it now. I think it works. Oh, sorry. That is a file I had there. It's also some notes for my D&D campaign I'm currently in. We're just into the Tomb of Annihilation, so we're going to see how that goes. Probably not well. But since we just talked about the characters, now is probably the best time because it's all fresh in our minds and I don't have to re-talk about each of those characters. For ones I love the Merchant Prince. And I love the Lineage, Highborns, and Prideborns. And then I always took a Biomancer, although I can see the appeal of a Ferromancer now. Before, like I got it, but I just had a hard time making them work. All right, let's talk about the different upgrades that they can take. Now, if you are the Assassin, you may only take an upgrade. It's either the Mutation or the Eccentricities. If you are effectively a Biomancer or Ferromancer, you get access to the apparatuses. But every character, including them, gets a total of 2 of the things they're allowed. I think we'll look at it this way. I think this is fine. You know what? Actually, like that's a little smaller, so we'll do it this way. All right, so let's go through the apparatuses. So this is for Biomancers or Ferromancers only, depending which one. So Master of Flesh, Biomancer, Warlord. The character's epigenic trigger draw event becomes an aura. Special rule reading. Friendly regiment within 12 add +2 to their command stand attack characteristic. So his epigenic trigger. I gotta take a look at what that is. Oh, his draw event is that trigger. When friendly regiment's within 12, its command stands gain 2 attack until the end of the round. Oh, because before it was you chose one, right? Yeah, target one within 12. Now it's all within 12. So for 30 points, you can affect any friendly command stands within 12. Pretty good. If he is your warlord, I think that's a pretty strong ability. If you're going to put him towards the middle, because 12 inches out, you might be hitting quite a few friendly regiments within 12. Okay. And the command stand doesn't have to be within 12, just the regiment itself. So, strong. If you got to spare 30 points and he's your warlord, I think that's a pretty good one to go with. Forward, I'm just seeing if any other ones cared about being warlord. No. All right, so Degenerative Aura for 25 points. It's a Biomancer or Ferromancer. When the regiment this character is currently attached to activates its strain ability, any regiments currently in contact with it suffer the decay special rule. Okay, so you can put strain onto the enemy, which means depending on the size of their unit, you could legitimately do some decent damage. I'm not going to compare the current mutations to the old, because I don't think that's worthwhile. My screen where I normally have just one up is a little bit screwed up right now, so just for ease, I'll keep it this way. But to go back and forth, I mean, the things they used to do before, you do a variety of different things, and it really doesn't matter what you did before. It matters what you do now. Like the Degenerative Aura, they had that, but added some lethal demise. Well, now, if I use my ability, you take the hit as well. And remember, if your Ferromancer is your Warlord, that unit doesn't take the hit. So if you have a Ferromancer Warlord, give them this ability, use that ability every single turn, and even if you don't care about what it does so much, it might be enough to get those last bit of wounds or that last assurance that you need on your opponent. You know, I said, how many times have you had it? Oh, because if they're a character Cause that was subject to K special. So let me check one thing. Does it trigger off of the characters as well? This would be faster. Will it? Decay. The registers of 1 wound per stand at the end of its activation. So, no. Okay. Well, the character's part of the regiment. So what happened? I'm not entirely sure. The character being there might mean that you actually take the extra number for them. I'm sure the answer is no, but I don't want to definitively say one other way or the other. But I do like that. I do think that's a pretty neat ability. At 20 points, I don't know if I always use it, but I do like that. Biomancers and Ferromancers for Biotic Renewal, 20 points. The character gains the draw event. The regiment the character is currently attached to immediately heals 3 wounds. So the regiment heals 3. With their wording, I would say it probably doesn't just the way they word it, but the previous one, hey, you get to heal 3. For 20 points, depending on the unit you're in, especially if you're really trying to push that heal, or if you're taking the Underspire, where you can heal even if broken, because that might be very important. Grotesque Elixir is Biomancers and Ferromancers, 20 points. Once per game during the character's activation, target friendly monstrosity and heal 1d6 wounds. A Biomancer may spend a single observation token to roll 2d6 and pick one result instead. If you have a spare 20 points and nothing else is going to fit or nothing else you want, sure. I do like the way it can heal. One of the monsters does want heals, and there's a way to put some heals onto it. Has some other options. This, if you are taking Merchant Prince Warlord, becomes a lot better because you're one of those 6s could just be used for one of your monsters. Hey, now they just heal 6 wounds. That's like 1/3 of their wounds. So instead of like an 18 wound monster, you're really a 24 wound monster. So, or some of them are actually better even at like 20 and stuff like that. So if you're going to take him, I think very good. Otherwise, if I have a spare 20, sure. If I don't, if I like move things around to take this, I'm going to roll the 1. So, Hyperadrenal Stimulation. It's 20 points, Ferromancers only. The regiment, they gain the counterattack. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not super big into that, but not bad. Induce Lethargy for 10 points, Ferromancer. The enemy regiment does not benefit from Unstoppable or Juggernaut when selecting the regiment this character is currently attached to as the target of its charge action. Very cheap and very potentially useful. If you are taking a Ferromancer and you happen to have a spare 10, I probably would take this. It's not always going to work, but the times when it does, when you're facing against some Wadroon dinosaurs, when you're facing some Ironi Oni, that them having the auto, 11 or 12 or 30, whatever number they end up having through these various units, auto charges, instead they have to roll and be honest. That's actually pretty big. That's actually honestly quite good. And removing their unstoppable, that means, hey, if you're like a 4 up on the charge, do you really want to try it? Especially if you're like a 5? Do you actually want to roll it? Because you either make it and it's great or not, and you're just stuck. So there's a few other things that are as cheap or cheaper, but if I have a Ferromancer and I have those spare points, that actually can cause a lot of good. Because that also does mean that that unit's a bit more protected, because he's probably in a somewhat squishy unit, probably. Unless you take one of the upgrades that lets him go into something bigger. Or that also means maybe I can put him a little bit in front. Some of his abilities, once they get a little close, maybe I put him a little bit in front. And now you're having a hard time getting to him. So, mutations. Anyone can take a mutation. In general, again, unless you're the assassin, you can only take one thing either way. But otherwise, everyone can take up to 2. And if you're not a Biomancer or Ferromancer, it's just mutations and eccentricities. So mutations, Pharaoh Ossified Carapace for 30 points. You got to be a Husk character. So that is the lineage Prideborn and Highborn. The regiment this character is currently attached to gains a draw event. They get Hardened 1. Hardened 1 is it. Let's assume you have no idea who you're going to play against. Being able to negate cleave by 1, or effectively, especially a negate cleave 1, is very big. When you're taking a look at, say, Avatara have a nice defense 4, but they're only 4 wounds a pop. Well, this could do a lot. However, most people have some units that don't, or you'll have units, I'm thinking like Ifrit, Sword Dancers. I don't have cleave. I just roll tons of dice. And I'm going to take you down because you don't have enough wounds when I make you roll 15 dice or more or something like that. So a little situational. If, not that you should be like, if your local meta has a lot, like, oh, Cleave 1 is super common all over the place, higher it helps with as well. But I'm thinking about, that sort of big breaking point. Because a lot of times if you have a very high cleave, you usually don't have tons of attacks. So good, 30 points is expensive, but it probably needs to be expensive. Otherwise, you'd probably just take it no matter what. Endocrine Overstimulation for 30 points. Friendly regiments currently within 8 from this character. Roll 2d6 and picks the highest one, determining their charge distance. Very nice. Very nice, because I don't think there's a lot of reroll on charge type stuff here. Unstoppable and stuff like that. I don't think there's a lot of Juggernaut either. So getting that reroll for 30 points, I kind of rank that higher, especially because if you can get more units in. Convulsive Doom, 15 points. Has to be a clone character. This character may always die fighting. When this character performs attacks as part of their die fighting, they have +2 to their character attacks characteristics. All right, so if you're looking at clone, you look at the High Clone Executor. Okay, of worthwhile, you're looking at the High Clone Executor. If you're taking something else on him, maybe. I don't know if I care about it as much. It's good, but that's more of like a fun, cool thing. He may always die fighting. I wonder if that means you can do it even if you're not in contact. I would say if he says he always can, then yes. He's touching a regiment, he's just allowed to. 15 points, it's a fun thing. It's a neat thing to be able to do. I don't know if it's super crazy good, but it's a fun thing. Let me take a look real fast. Oh, sorry. For ones you want, like, okay, yeah. The Biomancer's a clone. No. You're not taking on the Biomancer. You're not doing it for the Ferromancer. The Medic Assassin, actually, with it isn't bad. It would actually be pretty good. Because then you're only getting him, essentially you're paying 75 points for him. You're still 15 points cheaper than you used to be. And if everything goes terrible, at the end, you at least have 6 attacks on 3 with Flurry. So instead of 3 hits, you're looking at 4 to maybe 5 at Cleave 2. He's actually probably the spot I put it. Because when I look at the Highborn, sorry, not the Highborn, sorry, the Clone Executor, my apologies. The High Clone Executor. Oh, no, he's Cleave 2 as well. I forgot he was Cleave 2. I thought he was Cleave 1. But, so he's actually very, very similar. So if you took an Assassin, that might be a cool upgrade to put on the Assassin. If not, it is a pretty neat upgrade on him because, again, he's 1 less attack, but you're getting 3 to 4 Cleave 2 attacks in, which can do quite a bit. So you know what? I rank that. I rank that better than originally I was saying. I do think that's a little bit. Oh, and they add 2 to their attacks. And when they do that die fighting, so +2. So really, the assassin would be 8. He'd be at 7. No, that's actually good. Okay, because they're Cleave 2, that's good. Neither of them causes fear, but maybe the unit they're in. I don't think there's a lot of fear causing in the units that they can go in naturally. Okay, no, Convulsive Doom, I like it. Linked to Neuroceptors for 15 clone characters, so it's most of them that we looked at. Pretty much they're all clones except for the ones that are husks. While the regiment this character is currently attached to has its strain ability active, they gain Untouchable. Good to have. Nothing more I say that. Good to have. Cultivate a muscle memory. 10 points, the character gets +1 to clash. Again, if you have a spare 10 points, you want to put it on, the assassin or... Oh yeah, it's the lineage highborn. That's the cleave one, right? Yeah, he's the cleave one. Or clone executor. Put him up to that 4. Grafted. +1 to their attacks for 5 points. So hit better or more attacks. Technically, because you're looking at Inspire, if you're at a 4 and you Inspire, you're only re-rolling the 6s, where the extra attack, you'll be at 4. So it's assuming you're on a 3 base and you're going to be Inspired most of the time you swing, the extra attack is better, otherwise cultivate a memory. But hey, it's only 5 points. Most lists you have a spare couple points. So at least that's a cheap thing you can throw on no matter what. The eccentricities. Forlorn Drive. The drone or clone regiment this character is currently attached to gets flank. That's fine. Flank is cool, but you know what? Not for 30 points. Give me some other stuff. 30 points for Preservation Protocols. Husk character only. Character gains the following combat or out of combat action. Immediately remove all wound markers from the character and the Husk regiment they're currently attached to. Ooh. Okay. Okay, so I don't care as much about the character having wounds on it because unless they ever do an update that makes it much harder to refuse duels, that's really where you're looking at it. But for the Husk unit they're in, excuse me, can't go into Centaurs. Actually, can anything help them go in there? I think you can change it. You can change your type to Brute. But I don't think... there's anything that will let you go into a different one. No. Okay. So that means we're really taking a look at... I know those are actually monsters. Leon and Avatara or just Avatara. Those are really the units I think we're looking at. Avatar are great. I've always loved Avatar. I love the models. I love what they do, everything. The problem is they're 4 wounds. They're very, very low wounds. So that ability is very strong, but you got to time it right. Because for 30 points, if you miss the wrong... if your timing is wrong, then they may not heal at all. And I don't know. I like it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be so... Oh, excuse me. I'm not sure if it's going to be so situational that you're going to really struggle to get it to go. And that's my concern. I think it might be really tough to actually make it happen. Oh, you did 1 or 2 wounds to me. Oh, 3 wounds. Cool. But if you did like 5 or 6 to me, I'm going to get some wounds back on the one stand, but the other stand's already gone still. Where I could see that helps is if you have small heals from other spots, or we know the Biomancer has like a 4 heal. So if you use this to heal up a little bit and that we can bring back full stands, I think it might be tougher to make it work is the problem. No matter the price, for 30 points. Once per game, when the clone regiment this character is attached to performs a class action. Before rolling hits, we talked about this one, you may activate this eccentricity. For every failed hit, you're going to take a wound. Then all failed hits are immediately converted to successful ones. You cannot reroll hit rolls during this class action. So if you have rerolls, it's just not going to help you. That's fine. Morale tests trigger as a result of the additional wounds are rolled at the end of the action along with other wounds that occur during the result of the clash action. Morale tests triggered as a result of the additional wounds roll at the end of the action. Okay, so yeah, it all happens as well. So for 30 points in a clone unit, you can just guarantee everything hits. Actually, in A Song of Ice and Fire, we had something like this. It was one of the neutral heroes. It might have been Dario. He had an ability where, like, hey, everything will hit this round, and everything that misses will hit you and hit them. Has to be a clone unit, so you're thinking like what? Vanguard clones? 5 attacks a pop. They're naturally on 2s. So the because it says you take a wound. So you're not taking hits. You're actually, let me check one thing. Yeah, it is wounds. So you're just flat taking that damage. And I think the way it's worded, I think you might actually roll the morale. I think that might be what they're saying at the end. Morale test triggered as a result of the additional wounds are rolled at the end of the action along with other wounds that occurred as a result of the clash action. I think the way it sounds like you do. But yeah, I guess it's them. Sharing the rules with us. So your Vanguard clones, you can guarantee the hits, although they're not super crazy impressive hits unless the strain, extra attack. It has to be cloned. Infiltrators are more shooting. You're not really going to worry about it there. Not going to worry about it there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's like this super awesome unit because obviously drones are drones and not clones. I don't know where I'd want to put that. Vanguard clones are about the only spot, but when I look at Vanguard clones, oh, I guess maybe if you took an Assault Preceptor. No, that's rerolls. Assault Preceptor used to add like some attacks and stuff like that. Unless one of those. No, I don't really care about that. They don't have anything where I don't know what unit I want to put that on. I don't think that's exceptionally good because I don't know where it goes. I don't see the unit that's like, you know what? Oh, because these guys have enough cleave. Like, oh, I'll take out. Spires always had a thing of sometimes I'll do this thing, and I might not survive it, but neither will you. And I don't see that here. So, Lineage Commander for 15 points. The Lineage Highborn only. This character must be attached to a Bound Clones regiment, even though it is a brute stand. While attached to that Bound Clones regiment, the character's size is ignored for the purpose of line of sight. The regiment the character is currently attached to gains a Husk battlefield role in addition to any existing ones. So you go into a unit Bound Clones. Oh, I forgot about Bound Clones. Bound Clones. Okay, that's where you want to do it. I missed the Bound Clones when I was going through the thing. For that last one, that's where you put it because these guys are the ones with the cleave one. Okay, gain iron discipline's fine as well. But and then the Assault Preceptor, yeah, it's not gonna help on that. So if you're gonna use that ability, this is where you put it. And actually, for your character, this is a good unit for them to be in because hey, they got the bodyguards, they got the lineage guard. So if you actually have the highborn in there, or the High Clone Executor, then you're good. So okay, I can see that. But this is like the only one. What does the strain do? Support. If you weren't touching the unit, I guess that matters. But if I'm going to do that ability, I'm going to use it here. And if I make them Husk, then I can make sure they're inspired at all times and everything like that, because it'd be Clone and Husk. All right, so I found a spot for no matter the price. I'm still not sure I love it for that 30. And Lineage Commander, it's neat. I'm not too concerned, but I think some of the synergies could work well. Husk, if you are taking the right type of groupings can help you. We know there's a few of them where Husk matters, but I'm not sure. Avatar projection for 10 points. Biomancer, Ferromancer, or Merchant Prince. Hey, you become a brute, impact 3 and +1 in clash and attacks. You essentially become an Avatara. So you are brute, so then you can go with Avatar and all of that. I do believe that gives you some openings for... You're not really worried about necessarily the clash or attacks per se. It's nice enough to have. But I mean, some of your Avatara in general, it's not like they're that much more survivable. You can't go with the Centaurs. Incarnate Sentinels are monstrosities, yeah. Could go in Leonin then if you want. If you just want survivability, you could potentially go in there because they're... Oh no, sorry, they're Cav. You can't go in. My apologies. They're Cav. You're not going there. So where are you going? Are you just going in Avatar? Are Avatar actually the only... Sorry, it's by brute, not by type. Oh, sorry. So you could go with the brute drones because they are brute. And you're just changing your type to brute. Although they have to be able to take them as well to be able to do that. Can they? Could the Biomancer do that? No. So what could the Biomancer go in? Incarnate Sentinels? They should be brutes. Yeah. My apologies, I was looking at the wrong type. So you could go Incarnate Sentinels. You could go brute drones for the Ferromancer. And then the Merchant Prince can go in any because his restricted are any. So he could technically go in any of the brutes. But you could go into one of them, especially for like Incarnate Sentinels. Defense 4, Resolve 4, but with the better wounds.